Hello and welcome to this edition of Business Spotlight. My name is Reza Kodadust from Action Coach, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Dan Sherrard-Smith. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Reza. Great to be here.
Great to have you on the show. Dan is the founder and CEO of MotherTree, which is a green consultancy. So, Dan, first of all, welcome, and please tell us a little bit about your company, what it is you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be here. So I'm the founder and CEO of MotherTree. We make it easy for values-led businesses to go green and save money on their finances and their bills. Before this, I was on the founding team and Look After My Bills, which had the best ever deal on Dragon's Den and saved the British public £127 million in 3 years through switching to better energy deals. And we're putting that expertise into values-led companies. Our goal is to get £1 billion into the green economy by 2025. And what we do with businesses, so we look at where they currently are for their finances and their bills, so their bank accounts, their pensions, their insurance, those kind of things. We look at the financial returns, but we also look at the carbon impact and we look at the values. And then we go out to the market and we look if we can find providers who match their values, who reduce carbon, but also get them better returns. And once our clients are happy with that plan, we go and do all of the switching on their behalf. And it takes the founder about 2 hours over 6 weeks. And yeah, we do all the legwork for them.
Fantastic. And I guess, my first question is going to be around what inspired you to start your business? How did you get into it? I know you had some background in that area, but, what motivated you to set up on your own?
Yes, so two things really. So my story starts when I was 12. So I grew up in Swansea on the edge of the Gower, beautiful coastal region of the UK. Yeah. I like to say it has the best beaches in the world. My wife says they're the best beaches in my world. I think she thinks the water's a bit too cold. But when I was growing up, I loved that place. And I remember sitting in a geography class at 12 years old and hearing about climate change for the first time and realizing without dramatic change, that area of the world will be lost within my lifetime. And I didn't know what to do about it then, but that feeling really stuck with me. And of course, there's been more profound wake-up calls ever since about the climate crisis, but that was the first one for me. And then 3 years ago, my wife was pregnant. We've now got a 2-year-old son called Theo. And it really made me question where I was spending my time. And I'd got Look After My Bills to a very solid position. We were 8 figures revenue per year. And so I left that comfortable job and I just started researching and talking to founders and sustainability leaders and CFOs about their experience of the climate crisis. And through those discussions, that's sort of where MotherTree has grown from.
Wow. I guess you took that really brave decision to start a business, and we know starting a business is never easy. There are challenges. What were the key challenges for you when you first started?
That's a great question. Key challenges when I first started MotherTree. So the first was just figuring out who could really benefit from what we were delivering. And so I'll give you a quick story. So through the interviews that I conducted with these founders and CEOs and CFOs, my wife came up with the idea of something called the Climate Challenge, which was for me ways to run free focus groups and for the participants ways to just discover ways to live a greener lifestyle. So over 30 days, we took on 30 challenges in groups of 8 people at a time. We ran it for about 5 groups. It's about 2.5 years ago. And the challenges ranged from figuring out our carbon footprint to going vegan for the day to getting rid of single-use plastic, all the classic stuff you read on the blogs and things. And then 2 of the challenges were a real wake-up call for me included. We looked at where our banks were investing and where our pensions were going. And I realized 2% of my pension was going to BP and Shell, 1% was going to British American Tobacco, just things that I'd never invest in. Right. And Look After My Bills bank account, they were with Lloyd's at the time. Lloyd's invested £12 billion into fossil fuels since 2016. So over £1 billion a year into fossil fuels. And those 2 things were a huge wake-up call for me. So that was really the launch pad for MotherTree. And we spent about the first 6 months sort of talking to consumers about that offer and how we could help consumers. But when we looked back after 6 months, we realized 50% of our revenue was coming from businesses without us ever talking to businesses. We kept having sustainability leaders come and say, actually, this is great, you can do this for me, but can't you do this for my business? There's a bigger impact here.
Yeah.
And so we pivoted. So the first challenge was really figuring out where the product sat, and then flexing the product to make sure we deliver absolute value to customers. And then I'd say the big challenge, and I think this is the case for every business that I've been in and lots of founders that I talk to, is lead generation. If you can have 10x more demand than you can deliver for, you'll never be out of business, even during a recession. And so that's the big challenge, is making sure we get high quality leads consistently every month. That's the big challenge, because everything is easier if you have a stack of leads.
Of course, absolutely. And obviously, apart from realizing that B2B was the right way for you to go, was there any other significant turning point, any particular milestones that kind of contributed to the growth of the business, took you to the level that it is now?
Yeah, the big one for me was Go Cardless. So they chap called Ben Knight, it's absolutely brilliant sustainability professional, had seen we published this thing called the Bank League Table, which gave consumers and businesses, back then it was focused on consumers, real clarity on the carbon impact of their bank. So it shows, where Barclays are in terms of carbon. If you hold £10,000 in a current account, what does that mean in terms of carbon with Barclays? But also for the greener banks. And Ben had seen this table and he got in touch and said, look, it's great. I've done this, I've made the change for myself, but actually moving the business is more complex. There's more people involved. We have more banks. They put £30 billion through their banks every year. Go Cardless, big fintech, 900 employees. So they were a kind of really big client for us. And really that starting point of this is more of a B2B play than a B2C one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, you are in a space that other operators also operate. You are bringing something new to the table, and that will inevitably give you a competitive edge. But how do you actually stay ahead of a curve? What other things do you use to sort of maintain that competitive edge?
Well, the key thing for us is clarity. So everything we do has to be backed by data.
Right.
And when we're researching for clients, all of our research that we do has to have 3 verifiable data sources to confirm every single data point that we then reflect back to clients in terms of financial performance, in terms of carbon reduction, and in terms of alignment to their values. So we go very, very deep in terms of what's actually happening with their bank and their pensions and their insurance and their investment. And I think getting to that level of detail is incredibly hard to replicate. It's probably, it's cost us north of, I need to cost it up accurately, but it's cost us north of £500,000 in terms of market rates to do that. It's probably more than that. So that is a particular advantage for us. And we're able to access things like the Bloomberg terminal. So we can see where banks are actually lending money, which goes much deeper than just the banks reporting on their own emissions. We also partner with the likes of Mike Berners-Lee and his organization, Small World Consulting. Mike Berners-Lee is, I would say, the leader, and definitely one of the leaders in terms of the carbon footprinting of various things in the UK and probably worldwide. And so we make sure we've got verifiable sources to build up those databases to then give really accurate, clear information to our clients. So it's all about clarity. Very, very hard to replicate that level of detail.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see how access to that level of information will give you a unique selling point and a competitive advantage. So my next question is about your business and your team. We know the success of any business is really determined by the quality of the team that they have, how well they work together. What are your approaches, and what qualities do you look for when you hiring, when you're building a team, putting them together?
Yeah. So I love curiosity and proactivity. I think if someone comes with those two qualities, it's very compelling. The other thing that's very important to me is motivation. So if they're motivated by MotherTree's mission and they really get what we're about, which is ultimately changing the systems, if we can get the right money, if we can get money to the right places, we start to change the systems. It's those three things that are very, very powerful. So motivation in terms of MotherTree's mission, curiosity in terms of what's possible, and why is something the way it is. It doesn't, just because it is in the past doesn't mean it has to be. And then proactivity, to take the initiative. And so my co-founder Craig, who's our COO, actually, he actually approached me. He went on what was then our climate challenge, which I've talked about. So he had the curiosity to go through that, and then he had the proactivity to contact me afterwards and go through how we can improve that challenge. And I love those kind of approaches. So those are the main three things we look for. And there's obviously a longer list. Someone has those three things, it's in a very good position.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. And interesting enough, you talk about the characteristics and the soft skills as opposed to the hard skills. I guess that's a given, but it's the alignment with your culture and vision, as well as their attitude, really.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. Sorry, Reza, go on.
No, carry on, please.
Obviously the expertise is absolutely important. We're a remote business. It's very hard to train people up. So obviously the expertise and the hard skills are, you're right, it's a given. But those three soft skills for me are really where it starts.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. And are there any emerging trends or exciting opportunities in the industry? Anything that's kind of is going to change things and you're really excited about, that you'd like to share with us?
I love that question. Yeah, there is. So the big thing I'm excited about is the impact of companies' choice of banks. And I'll give you one example. So Google hold 130 billion in their bank for paying employees for acquisitions and for tax purposes.
Yeah.
That money is held of just a few banks, and based on how those banks invest, that money has a carbon footprint. That carbon footprint is bigger than the carbon footprint for Google and their entire supply chain. In fact, it's twice as big. Wow. So I'm really excited about the fact companies are waking up to this and realizing actually as a lever, both for their own carbon footprint, but also for society, where we put our money is a huge lever in terms of the world we're going to get in the next 10 to 30 years.
Yeah, and that's really interesting because, most people won't be necessarily looking at that, maybe looking at their operation and what they can do to minimize that, maybe their supply chain. But you brought up a very interesting point about, where you hold your funds and what is that funding, what is the impact. So it's very, very interesting. So I guess my final question is, where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years? What's the future plan for MotherTree and yourself?
Yeah, 3 to 5 years. I'd love to get it to the point where a client, whether it's a business or a consumer, can effectively click a button and everything in their lifestyle can be greener without them having to change their habits. Right. Yeah. So it's really effortless to live the greenest possible lifestyle we can. And MotherTree is the vehicle to make that happen.
Yeah, and it's a great vision, isn't it? To be able to do that. So thank you very much. I really appreciate the time you've taken today to be with us. Really enjoyed our chat, to hearing about your thoughts on various things. There was a lot of things for people to take away. There was certainly a lot of things for me to take away and learn some really new things, definitely with regards to the investment side of things and the impact on the green economy. So wish you all the luck with your future plans, and it's been a pleasure to have you.
Reza, great to be on. Thank you so much.
Great to speak to you, Dan. Bye-bye now.